Hi, everyone. I'm Kerry Cassidy from Project Camelot. So today I want to talk about Iran and Israel and the US and other countries as well, and what we're in the midst of. And I just want to bring the perspective off the ground and up higher and pull back, if you can think of it as sort of a camera lens, and just pull the lens way open and start to look at the bigger picture so that we can see in the long term where these actions are going to take us. So at the moment, Trump is asking for 2 weeks to decide whether to attack Iran. This sounds hard to believe because the stage is definitely set for some kind of attack and for the US to make a move. Now, what I want to do is actually bring forward a map of the area. So I want to bring people back to a focus that we had in the news actually a while ago, and it was focusing on why they were attacking Gaza and actually genociding the Palestinians. But I also threw out recently the possibility that they took a lot of those people and transported them underground in maglev trains and quite possibly to places like somewhere in Kazakhstan, out in the desert, or possibly Ukraine, as well as off planet. So just to throw that into the mix. I think that whenever you're looking at the Middle East, whenever you're looking at anything that goes on globally in this world, you need to start pulling back the lens and encompassing more than just the little playground here on Earth, but the surrounding echelons of ETs that are also attendant on what's happening, and realize that Israel is run by the Anunnaki. This is all throughout history, in the ancient writings, and so forth, in the Enki Enlil stories that Zachariah Sitchin, among other people, translated from the Sumerian tablets, and so on. So with that in mind, whenever you're dealing with Israel, you're dealing with the Anunnaki. And I really wish that would become commonplace understanding around the world so that we can stop focusing on Israel so much as really it's a country and it is under the beck and call of the Anunnaki. And that is because their bloodline most closely resembles, I imagine, the Anunnaki. But it doesn't mean that they are in charge of what they do. So if you focus on the Anunnaki and you focus on how Trump is trying to balance the relationships between two factions, one is the Anunnaki and the other is the alien group that runs Iran. So there's no doubt that the group that runs Iran is not the same ET origins as the Anunnaki. Therefore, whether it's the Enki Enlil story or it's going beyond that, I'm not sure. What I can say is they do all feel like they are humanoid, possibly with reptilian heritage. So you're talking about an Anunnaki reptilian humanoid. So in both cases. And the bottom line is that I believe if you don't look at the New World Order and their plans for the entire planet, and then put this smaller war into that context, that you're going to miss the point. You're going to not understand where this is headed and why they're doing what they're doing. So back of the Palestinian people in Gaza by Israel, that's when the pipeline and the canal came to the fore. So we have the Ben Gurion Canal, and that's going to take some of the the energy and focus away from the Suez Canal. It's going to empower the Middle East, especially the Arab countries, and that includes, of course, Iran. So Iran made a deal with the United States, all of the, various Arab countries, as well as Israel, to play ball and to get involved economically. So we're talking about a financial arrangement with what's going to be the Ben Gurion Canal and also the pipeline going through Gaza. So Iran was playing a double game. They were, on the one hand, arming and defending the Palestinians. On the other hand, they were making a deal, a business deal, to get involved in the Ben Gurion Canal and the pipeline, because this is going to change the face of business in the Middle East and really change a lot of economic futures for that area, as well as the United States and probably China and Russia. Now, when you look at China, China is behind Iran. So they are going back many years, allies. And China is quite dependent on Iranian oil, and et cetera. And one can imagine that they're also donating technical expertise in exchange for Iran getting their protection in the event of a world war, let's say. So when we're looking at the playing field, it's important to realize that when you're dealing with Iran, you're actually dealing with China. So when Trump is dealing with Iran, he knows he's dealing with China. And by the same token now, and this is going to emerge more and more, Putin and Russia are natural allies with the West, especially the United States. Even 107 has stressed this over and over again, and it makes sense. They're also allies with us in our secret space program. And so when we're looking at an ET relationship going on here, Russia is not on the side of China or of Iran. They are aligned with the US, and so they're playing ball, and Putin will probably do whatever it is Trump and the people that Trump is working with want to see happen. The bottom line here is that we've got this business deal going on. The concern with Iran at this time regarding that business deal has to do with Rothschild banking and the fact that all the elements and all the players are involved with moving the money via Rothschild banks, except for Iran, which has stayed out of that side of it, and that they need to be brought in to the financial arrangements having to do with the Rothschild banks. And this is from the point of view of the Illuminati and the New World Order. Where Russia tends to benefit is wherever the United States is going to benefit. So even though Putin is separate from the Rothschild banks, his country will still benefit through some kind of deal, backroom deal with the United States, and if he aligns himself and his country with the US. So if you look at this situation and you don't realize that there's been a deal made that involves, again, the Ben Gurion Canal and the pipeline going through Gaza, then you don't understand how Iran is behaving. The other thing is that Iran, as I have said many times, from going back to my interviews with Kesh all these years ago, which is maybe going back as far as 2012, and you can do that on my website, and basically knowing that he was an Iranian physicist. And now the bottom line here is that the ultimate goal of the New World Order, and by the way, also of planet Earth and her people, is to become united to deal with the off-planet races that are invading us through, divide and conquer, by the way, and aligning themselves with certain militaries, certain governments, and so that we are divided and conquered around the world in a massive way. And this is contributing to ongoing wars and that sort of thing. Now, both sides, the Illuminati and the other side of that equation, is the Trump administration and the White Hats. So that is the only group that is really working against the New World Order, taking over with a New World Order for the entire planet. So if you understand there's two sides, the White Hats and Trump and the Anunnaki, okay, and the New World Order group. So there's also the reptilians, the ones that are not hybrids, but pure blood reptilians. And there's a few other ETs in the mix, including those from Aldebaran, the ones that helped the Nazis, which are reptilian human hybrids, and so on. So when you're looking at this playing field, as long as you ignore the ET side of it, you are missing the story. You're missing the objectives. You're not understanding what they're trying to do or why. And so in the end, you can land on, even the Q posts that do not incorporate what you might call the ET analysis of our global politics. And our global politics are in a backdrop that involves the incoming races of various ETs over the centuries, the kings and queens and blue bloods that were set up and set in place by the Anunnaki, back in the day, and also interfered with our genome and shortened our lifespans through a frequency fence that's now being removed, and so on. So I realize that my analysis is not popular. I understand that that I certainly have sort of triggered a lot of people out there by even my recent analysis having to do with what's going on with the incoming invasion of what is in essence robotic synthetics and run by AI. And this has been put out there for many, many years, starting, as far as I know, with the Wingmakers material, but also distributed throughout in bits and pieces with a knowledge of the future timeline that Earth is going to be dealing with. And that does involve an invasion scenario, which has already started. Okay. You could say that sentient AI is already here, and they are lying to you about that. Elon Musk, what his technology is a hidden, basically limited hangout to cover our secret space program and all the technology that they actually have to go interdimensional, extra dimensional, to jump, to go from, inside our solar system, planets, colonizing the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, to jump through the gates, such as through the Saturn gate, which is a major gate out of our solar system, and so on. So it's better for you if you begin to incorporate this much larger perspective in understanding why Trump might act a certain way, and the White Hats and so on. So if you look at the playing field now, what you have is Iran standing separate from the plans of the New World Order to run the planet, all right, and then be the ones to make the decisions and interact with the ETs, which they're already doing through the secret space program. However, as long as Iran stands separate, they become a threat also through ET invasion, if you can appreciate that. So then Earth has no unity by which to go forward. If we're all fighting among each other, then you can't go forward. So although obviously the Illuminati want to run the New World Order, but Trump is vying, and his allies are vying to run the New World Order. So that's really what you have. There's no denying that we're going to have a new world order or a one world government that will be made up of groups that will hopefully be intelligent groups that will then basically lead to a way to negotiate with ET races in a more open way, because at the moment it's completely secret. Regular humans have no access whatsoever to any of the decisions they make for the planet, okay? And that just is not a good way to operate, obviously. So as we move forward, when you want to analyze Trump's moves, you need to put them in this context. So one of the things he's doing is trying to take over the entire North American continent, and that includes Canada, Mexico and South America, Latin America, and so on, as well as Greenland, Iceland, and the North Pole area, because that's a very specific link to our inner Earth civilization contacts, as well as our military, lots of military establishments within that, going in through the northern entrance, as well as Antarctica, which is a whole nother ballgame that also is factored into this mix. So what the New World Order has been doing has been run by the dark side for a very long time, but we are in the middle of a transition. And so when you see Trump take certain actions, he is vying to be the leader of not just the North American continent, but probably the whole New World Order, his group, okay? And Trump does not work alone at all. So understanding that any decisions made are not made unilaterally by an individual. What you have is the white hats, the generals, the 200 generals that put him in place, other players, some of which could even be from Israel. There's an understanding around the world by the people that are at the top that this one world order has to come into being. And they are trying to, I believe, negotiate with both sides. So they've got their side, and then they've got a group within them that are part of the Anunnaki and Illuminati, and they are sort of balancing things when it's advantageous to them. That's why Trump is also not that clear on his stance with regard to Iran, because they want Iran to be in the mix. They just need regime change so they can get with the more modern way of looking at the world and continue the business deal that they've already engaged in and make them part of the monetary system. So what is also at root here is the battle between monetary systems. So on the one hand, you have, because if you're going to run the world, you have to run it through finance also. So Trump and the QFS, as everyone knows about, and his group are obviously planning to release their financial system on the world that would free us from the Illuminati Rothschild financial system. But at the moment, it's still a battle. It hasn't been won, and this has gone back and forth. So all of these moves have to do with getting these countries, and that includes Israel, by the way, into sort of line, if you want to call it that, to be prepared for this new world, one world, holistic Earth to deal with all these off-planet races. And by the way, that means that the Anunnaki are going to have to take sort of a seat at the table, but not be in charge. And that's also an issue. So I realize that maybe what I'm saying is not completely clear. I hope it makes some sense to some people, but it's very important that people understand that, again, you have to look at the situation with a longer term in mind. It is possible that, for example, the US may attack Iran, but it will be in ways that are, let's say, a limited hangout. It will not have to do with decimating. So, and both sides, neither side wants to destroy the other. What they want is to move forward with this business deal that involves the Ben Gurion Canal and the remaking of the Middle East, a rebalancing with the countries involved, as well as the pipeline already being established by the exodus, let's call it, of the Palestinian people, as well as the so this is where you have to, once you start to bring these pieces in, then you can play your games with the Q things as well. They know what I'm talking about, but they never refer to it, actually. So that's a problem. And there's other problems that have to be changed. So when we have, let's say, if we ever have, the EBS, Electronic Broadcasting System announcements, the tribunals, the fact that Trump actually won, so that in a sense, he's owed 4 more years, even beyond what he's doing now, by the system, by virtue of the fact that he actually won and didn't get to play that out in theory. So you're looking at a lot of disclosures that are going to clear the playing field and change the balance of power in the world, not just in the Middle East, by the way. And so understanding, again, I can't stress it enough, that when you're dealing with Israel, you're dealing with the Anunnaki. And the Anunnaki are also embedded in our main government. Bob Dean even referred to this. So they're also involved with England and the English government. And then you also have the more reptilian Nazi contingent that's also embedded the government's, the secret space program. Then you also have the Pleiadians. And by the way, there's reason to believe the Pleiadians and the Venusians are involved in counseling Trump and his group, as well as probably at least one inner Earth civilization. So this is a big deal because this is a changing of the guard on Earth. And the changing of the guard, or the leadership, to get Iran on board more fully and not to be so isolated, is part of it. And then please keep in mind that the minute this, which is really a staging ground for what comes next, as I have said in my previous interview with Nino, and you're welcome to go watch that. And I also have it on my website and also in my Rumble. So I'm going to stop this here. I know I'm throwing out a lot of stuff and you may disagree, but if you start following the trail, I think you're going to end up agreeing with me. What I am trying to do is counter the mainstream narrative, the narrative that even the alternative people, especially MAGA and various groups, are following and believing, when in fact it's not what's really happening. And they cannot decipher, other than through, some nice little, Q posts, let's say, where this is going. So Q, we're putting some hints out there to keep the MAGA people kind of cool and feeling that they were thinking Trump is in charge and so on and so forth. But that in and of itself is a mode of placating that group, which is going to be very active and is very active behind the scenes and also in public, all the broadcasters out there and that sort of thing. So understanding the bigger picture and how that motivates the smaller turf fighting that's going on this planet, and where it needs to lead, where it's going to lead, whether you like it or not, eventually, is just worth knowing. And by the way, the more truth you are able to bring into your consciousness and your field, as they say, and the more you act according to that truth, the more it will set you free, even psychologically, emotionally, and help you to get through these days where, you know, if you concentrate on just what's going on the ground, you get misled and you get pulled from one side to the other side and back and forth. And it's a tug of war. So I hope this is helpful to people. And I will continue to write articles on my Substack and post them also on my website. We finally found I think we've got fixed our newsletter. So we're going to put that out. That'll have a lot of the latest videos that I post on Rumble. And by the way, if you want to understand where my videos are, they're all on Rumble. We're moving more and more videos onto Rumble as I speak. They also, the older ones, for the last, like prior to 2021 or around 2021 before, all went to Odyssey, a lot of them. We're moving some of those over to Rumble to basically have platforms that are more robust and where people can find things easily through the search engines and so on. Also, everything is all on my website, but my website, you'll often find broken links and where we have been attacked repeatedly. But if you find broken links, you should always email me if you don't mind, and just send me the link that's broken so that we can follow it and fix it. So I would really appreciate that. And that would mean that you would contact me via email, which is Kerry, Kerry, at Project Camelot, all one word, .tv. That's my main email address. So want to thank you again for being here and for listening, and take care. God bless.